In the heart of the office district in Chiyoda Ward, Tokyo, you can find Taira no Masakado's grave. Masakado was a powerful leader during the Heian period, and when he declared himself to be the new emperor, he quickly became an enemy of the royal court and was swiftly defeated. However, it was said that after his head was cut off, it flew back to his homeland in the Kanto region, landing in what is now Chiyoda Ward. The sky went dark and the earth trembled upon his arrival, and the terrified locals buried the head exactly where they found it. This became known as the Masakado Kubizuka, or burial mound for Masakado's head. But how is it that this grave can still take up prime space in the heart of Tokyo, even in the modern age? Why has it not been moved so the land can be sold to the highest bidder? Well, it turns out there's a very good reason for that. Anytime someone tries to move Masakado's grave, death soon follows. This has happened so many times that now nobody is brave enough to touch it. Nobody wants to be the next to fall victim to Masakado's curse. Hello and welcome to Toshiden, exploring Japanese urban legends. I'm your host, Taira Devlin, and on this show we'll be looking at different urban legends from Japan, how they came about, and, when possible, the truth behind them. If you want even more urban legends, make sure you pick up Toshiden Volume 4 for even more terrifying tales that you can find only in the books. And if you'd like early access to both this show and Kawabana, or you'd just like to support us, you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/TaraADevlin. Thanks, guys. To give a very brief history, Taira no Masakado was a samurai from the Kanto region who lived during the early 900s. The Taira clan were descendants of Emperor Kammu, who was demoted to commoner status and lived in the now Tokyo Chiba area. For a period, he served in the royal court and wished to join the imperial police, but his request was denied. It was this, perhaps, that played at least a small part in his future resentment of Kyoto. To make a long story short, numerous disputes and events led to Masakado deciding to rebel against the imperial court and declare himself the new emperor. A bounty was put on his head, and two men, Taira no Sadamori, his own cousin, and Fujiwara no Hidesato, a samurai under the Emperor Suzaku, claimed the prize and took his head back to Kyoto. It was said that his head was put on display for all to see, and even more urban legends surrounding the head popped up over the years, but we'll look at those later. Then, at some point, it ended up back in Shibasaki, then a small fishing village in what would later become Edo, and then Tokyo. At the time, it stood right on the edge of Tokyo Bay, but due to land reclamation, that site can now be found several kilometers from the shore. Way back when Masakado's head was first buried, locals continued to fear it. After all, there seemed to be endless flooding and other disasters in the area, and so it was only natural that this had to be because of Masakado's rage. He was so angry that he was now cursing people from beyond the grave. In 1307, a monk held another memorial service for him and erected a gravestone for him as well. They also deified Masakado in the nearby Kanda shrine, officially making him a kami-sama, and this act seemed to finally cool his anger and end his vengeful curse. And so, for centuries, peace prevailed. Or, at least, Masakado no longer caused locals any issues. But then, when the Great Kanto earthquake hit in 1923, Masakado's gravestone broke. This was soon followed by a flurry of deaths and unnatural accidents in the area, and the people feared that Masakado's curse had returned, with a vengeance. As one story goes, The Ministry of Finance tried to build their building on the location of Masakado's grave, but workers kept dying and politicians kept falling ill. The new building was then struck by lightning. The minister died, and more unfortunate accidents followed. Clearly, Masakado was not pleased, and the building was ultimately removed and Masakado's grave restored. But that wasn't the end of it. When General Headquarters took control of Tokyo, they also tried to move Masakado's grave. It's important once again to note that locals revered Masakado as a kami-sama. The American forces couldn't have that, and so they went full steam ahead with dismantling his grave. Or at least, they tried. A bulldozer overturned, killing several workers. And over time, no matter what they did to try to get rid of this grave, it simply resulted in more accidents and nothing even close to success. GHQ officials then reportedly visited Kanda Shrine, Masakado's home, to ask the head priest what they could do regarding this stubborn gravesite. Upon realizing it was simply more trouble than it was worth, they left the grave and moved on. Masakado had defeated his enemies once more. A long knowledge of Japanese history is necessary not just to understand Taira no Masakado's curse, but also how people inside and outside of Tokyo view him differently. For centuries, Kyoto was considered the heart of Japan, because that was where you could find the imperial court. This can be found in Japan's west, while Edo, a city that would grow to rival and then overtake it, could be found in Japan's east. Many consider Masakado to be one of the first figures from the east, the Kanto area in particular, to stand up to the imperial court in the west. As time went on and his legacy, and curse, grew, the people who lived near his grave came to worship him as a kami-sama. As Edo itself continued to grow, drawing people from all over Japan into a cultural mixing pot, an Edo culture came into being that found itself idealistically opposed to Kyoto in the west. The powerful and fearsome Masakado who stood up to Kyoto was, to many proud Edo citizens, a hero to be worshipped, a literal symbol of standing up to the tyranny of the West. It also helped that people seemed to keep dying whenever they messed with his grave, keeping the masses in check and very happy to continue their worship of him exactly where he was. Even today, it's said that the desks in the buildings surrounding Masakado's grave are arranged in such a way that nobody ever has their back towards him. After all, for a kami-sama still happy to whip out his grudge over 1,000 years later, it's better to be safe than sorry. And if we go back even further, we can find all sorts of legends surrounding his head as well. It was claimed that after he was beheaded and his head was put on display in Kyoto, it remained there for months without rotting. Some say his eyes remained open and his teeth bared, and if you passed by him, sometimes he might even scream at you, trying to incite people to battle again. And while Chiyoda Ward is the accepted location these days for Masakado's grave, setting aside whether the head was ever actually buried there or not to begin with, numerous other cities around Japan also claim to be where his angry head finally fell, after it flew into the sky in a rage. One story claims it actually flew to Kyoto after he was defeated, deciding that his head was all he needed to take out his anger on the royal court. As such, several locations within Kyoto claim to be his head's landing spot. Then there's Ogaki City in Gifu Prefecture, in particular the Mikubi Shrine, the characters for this translating to Honorable Head. One legend claims that when Masakado's head was flying from Kyoto to Tokyo, it was shot down by a kami-sama from Nangu Shrine. The locals feared that if his head returned to Kanto, it would spark yet another rebellion, and so they built Mikubi Shrine on the location his head landed to appease his anger. Interestingly, thanks to its name, over time, this shrine has come to be seen as having the power to heal injuries and illnesses above the neck. Ear diseases, in particular. At any rate, despite sitting on prime real estate in the heart of Tokyo, it's unlikely Taira no Masakado's grave will be moved anytime soon. It's now an almost integral part of the scenery, and a long piece of history that no one wants to upset again. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. You can help support us and get early access to both this show and Kawabana over on our Patreon at patreon.com/TaraADevlin. And if you still want even more urban legends, Toshiden Volume 4 is available right now, so don't miss out. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again next time for even more Toshiden, exploring Japanese urban legends.